Hello, everyone. It is Tony Aurelius. You may know me as Prima Antonia prior to the rebrand. I rebranded a couple of months ago, but never really made video content. I kind of shifted to streaming content for a little bit, but now I'm back. Part of my New Year's resolution was I wanted to make some videos, and more specifically, I wanted to make a new series. This series is going to be very ambitious. We call it Yu-Gi-Oh! Envoy of the Eras. Me and my friend Damien are going to be basically doing something that I believe has never been done before, and that is playing through basically every anime duel ever, but with some fun twists to make it a little more interesting. So, er, too fast. Okay, sorry. I already restarted once. I'm not restarting again. So basically, the point is to play through pretty much the entire anime with a couple of exceptions. Uh, the first thing we should probably talk about is how there are going to be some that are skipped. Some I've deemed to be either filler or there wasn't enough cards played to really make anything out of it. The idea is that we want to prioritize the we want to show off the strategies that they were used no matter how absurd they were, right? Like Duel Monsters has some crazy iconic stuff that is just insane and you can't really recreate, but there's a couple of things we're going to do to help with that. Think like Makiu the Magical Mist, destroying Cocoon of Evolution, and Gaia the Fierce Knight destroying the Flotation Ring. This is all like crazy stuff that you can like kind of recreate with skills. For those of you not familiar, skills, I believe they first appeared in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, and then they were added later to Speed Duel and the Vrains anime, I think. Yeah, the Vrains anime came out after Duel Links, that's right. And basically they're just things that help out the duelist to make them more in line with the character than just the cards they are playing. And we'll get into that later. Um, so what else do I have to make sure to cover here? Oh, we're not going to force the outcome of the duel. So Yugi versus Weevil, right? Episode 2. Um, we are going to put more tools in Yugi's deck to win, but we're also not going to leave the Weevil player just to play a deck that will always lose 100 of 100 times. We'll have some counterplay strategies. Uh, Basically, and we'll get into why we're doing this series later. Probably should have put that slide at the beginning, but hindsight's 2020. What else should I mention from this slide? So the priority on how we build the decks are going to feature cards used in the duels, uh, new support that will make the decks more exciting. Things like adding new bug support to Weevil's deck, new Gaia the Fierce Knight support to Yugi's deck, new water monsters to Mako deck, etc., new fusion support to Joey's deck. Those are going to be limited to one copy each. Many of those cards are very powerful. Um, and so, we don't want to overload. Now, some of these rules may be edited as we go throughout the series because adding powerful cards matters less and less. But again, we'll see. Uh, we will not force the outcome of these duels, as I said previously on the previous slide. And there's going to be a couple different types of skills. The first are EX skills. These skills are going to be used throughout a story arc. So, Duelist Kingdom, Battle City, the first, basically per season, basically, right? There, each season of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime has a different theme to it, and so both players are going to have access to the EX skill basically every duel. They're going to be things that help out the general mechanics of the season, be them fusion summoning, synchro summoning, things like that, etc., etc. In addition, each of us will have a character skill that allows us to not bend the rules because most of them are very simple. There's going to be skills that are simple and there's going to be skills that are complicated. The point is to make them as simple as possible so that they don't interfere with the duel that much. We don't want to like break rules of Yu-Gi-Oh too much within reason. We do want to have actual back and forth duels, right? The point is to have fun and play the card game, not to just literally recreate what happened in the anime. and just, say, hey, you win now, Yugi, by throwing your guy in. You guys are going to love this series. We've got a lot of cool stuff cooking up. I believe is the next slide. I believe my example deck. No, examples of skills. Okay. So here are the EX skills, some examples throughout some of the seasons. These are not final. I should put a big asterisk. None of these are final, and any deck list you see in this video are also not final. We're currently theory crafting the series, so I just wanted this little presentation to help you understand a little better. So the skill that's going to be at the start, this one's probably set in stone because obviously we've been theory crafting a lot of the Duelist Kingdom skills. At the start of the duel, both duelists may activate a relevant field spell from their deck to the field spell card zone. Now, if you'll remember in Duel Monsters, in Duelist Kingdom, there were field spells already on I don't even know what you'd call the duel arenas. That's what they called them, I believe, where they stood at those giant podiums before the duel discs even came out, right? Back then. And Weevil would have Forest and Rex would have Wasteland. And so we're just going to start with those on the field. The decks are going to be like 41 cards for the most part. And of course, there are going to be exceptions to this, like the very first duel. Since they're not on Duelist Kingdom, that first part of the skill isn't even relevant. Like we're gonna have 40 card decks exactly, no field spells, and we're just gonna go right into it. The second part is you may normal summon level 5 or higher monsters without the need of tribute, and you can do that once per turn and twice per duel. This is obviously to emulate the fact that, um, in Duelist Kingdom, there was no tribute summoning. Tribute summoning didn't come out until Battle City Finals, right? There was a big, or sorry, not Battle City Finals, but until Battle City, where, there was that big scene with Kaiban the helicopter, and he's like announcing the rules of Battle City. He's like, you now have to tribute summon monsters, right? And stuff like that. Because, like, let's be honest, they didn't know where the hell they were going with this card game anyway at this point. I love Duelist Kingdom so much. As much hate as it gets for being wonky, we're going to have so much fun with this series, and you guys are going to love it as well, I promise you. Battle City Finals. As I said, tribute summoning was introduced. You may conduct a tribute summon in addition to your normal summoner set, and you can use this skill twice per duel. Very simple. For GX Season 1, get your game on. If your opponent controls a monster, you may add one polymerization from your deck to your hand, then shuffle one card from your hand into the deck. You may use this skill twice per duel. Early Zexal, we have Number Shield. Number Xyz monsters gain this effect. This card cannot be destroyed by battle except with another number monster. And what's interesting about that is I worded that very specifically. I said they gain this effect, not like a blanket rule of number monsters can't be destroyed by battle. Because if you'll remember in the anime, when Shark negates Utopia with Black Ray Lancer, he was able to destroy it by battle, right? So that's wording is everything in Yu-Gi-Oh, even with skills. So very important to think about how we word things in this. Now, obviously, in case you couldn't tell, I've watched a lot of the anime, uh, so I also play competitive, and so I have another slide about this, making a little joke about that, but we'll get that right coming. I believe these are my example deck list. Love to see it. I was so proud of this one. All right, so this is the Weevil deck he will be using, or again, not final, uh, on basically the second episode of the series. Um, The primary function is obviously it is an insect aggro deck with the side strategy of trying to get out Great Moth. Now, there is a card that lets you cheat out Great Moth, but because of our rules, it has to be limited to one. And normally I would just say, oh, if I don't draw it, it's not that big a deal. But considering it was such an iconic scene, I did want to have the skill be able to search that powerful one of that lets us cheat out the Great Moth. Considering Yugi's going to be playing like Gaia the Fierce Knight shenanigans with like some of the modern Gaia support, I think it's fine to let me search the Cocoon. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be the Weevil duelist for this one. But as you can see, we have the 41st card, which is Forest for the field spell for the EX skill. We have Cocoon of Evolution. We have all of Weevil's famous insect equip cards. And then we have powerful one of staples that you're going to see a lot of throughout this series. Cards like Fusion Deployment and Unexpected Die. There are so many cards that just so happen to be fusion materials, cards like Hercules Beetle. that fusion deployment, and there's a new card that I found literally the other day called Fusion Draft. It literally reads pitch a card, add a fusion material, and then add another if you added a normal monster. So that's insane, right? Like you could play it in this one, but I decided not to, just because space. But yeah, so obviously we have an insect aggro strategy. Yugi's deck, on the other hand, is going to revolve around what are the iconic scenes from that duel, right? You have Weevil summoning a bunch of big insects and getting hit by Mirror Force. Weevil switches to Cocoon strategy. Uh, Yugi switches to Gaia the Fierce Knight strategy to try to break through the cocoon. Great Moth comes back, retaliates, and then Mike the Magical Mist finishes it off, right? So Yugi's deck is going to have basically a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck with also a little bit of Summon Skull action in it as well. All while having in all those, normal monsters as filler that they use during the duel. Um, anyway, let me actually read the skill now. I've been ranting about the deck for a little bit, and even Yugi's deck. Banish one insect monster from your graveyard. Add one Cocoon of Ultra Evolution or Insect Invitation from your deck to your hand. You may search each of those targets once per duel. Shuffle a level 5, and this is a separate thing that you can do. Shuffle one level 5 or higher insect monster from your hand or field into the deck. Add one equip spell from your deck to your hand. You may do this twice per duel. That is more so to make sure Moth doesn't stay in our hand, because I believe that Cocoon of Ultra Evolution does not let you summon from deck. Could you imagine if instead of screenshotting, I sent a YDK link to open up the deck list? That would have been really smart, wouldn't it? So I could just read the cards and not embarrass myself. But I'm fairly certain it doesn't say hand or deck; it says summon from deck. Um, and so there's that. Insect Invitation makes monsters my opponent controls insect. And what's cool is that Cocoon of Ultra Evolution, one thing I am sure about the card, is that it says that you contribute insect monsters on either field that are equipped with an equip spell. So I can equip it to like his Gaia the Fierce Knight, activate Cocoon of Ultra Evolution, tribute the Gaia the Dragon Champion, summon my Great Moth, and then that puts him in a position where he has to switch to something else in his deck to win, unless he summons another guy at the champion, and that's where the summon skull comes in. So see how like we're setting it up so that there's still a back and forth, but we are giving the Yugi player here, the tools to win. So I think that's like really cool. Obviously, I put a lot of thought into it. Let me take a nice swig of water before we read our miscellaneous rules. A couple of things. Obviously, we are going to take some of the mechanics of old Yu-Gi-Oh and put them in the EX skills, things like the Duelist Kingdom no tribute summon, right? I did want to limit on that, but there are other things that are a staple throughout a lot of the old series that I just felt we should just have them as additional rules and just remind them when it comes up, because these things aren't going to come up often, but we'll just say, hey, let's not forget, guys, we have this rule that lets us do this. The first is one that many of you will remember from the anime from your childhood. Monsters may be summoned in face-up attack, face-up defense, or face-down defense. This actually continued all the way up until Zexal. In Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, Yusei was still summoning Speed Warrior in face-up defense position, or a Sonic Chick, right, instead of face-down. And also in as early as Duel Monsters, there were also Bakura placing monsters face down. So you were able to choose, right? You didn't have to. As for those of you that know, in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, you must either normal summon your monsters in face-up attack or set them in face-down defense. But in the anime, there were three options, and so we're just bringing that over. Second thing, a lot of these anime boss monsters are awful, even with new support. Many of them will read "must be special summoned by their effects." And then there are other cards that have a slightly less restrictive wording. Again, wording is everything in this card game. There's cards that say must first be special summoned by its own effect. Uh, Pretty much all of Jaden's. This is just an example, of course. Jaden's fusion monsters always come to mind when I talk to people about this. Um, Flame Wingman, all of the old school hero fusion monsters, guys like Thunder Giant, they all say must be fusion summoned. And yet in the anime, Jaden is reviving them with Monster Reborn left and right. So again, just to keep things more consistent with the anime, cards that read must, and we'll remind you when this comes up in the series. We're not going to like do it and leave you guys confused. Be like, hey, just this is just part of our rule set. And although obviously I do recommend you watch this video as well. Um, we're going to allow ourselves to be able to do that. Now, of course, they do have to be properly summoned, right? You can't just send Flame Wingman from your extra deck to the graveyard and then revive it with Monster Reborn, just like regular Yu-Gi-Oh! That is still there. There will be a few other small text changes, like the examples above, to keep the authenticity aligned to the standards I want for this series, me and my friend Damien. Any necessary text will be announced before the duel starts, right at the start of the episode, to make you guys aware. Funnily enough, episode 3, Mako versus Yugi. Actually, no, I believe that's the fourth duel. Apologies. The third one is Mai versus Joey. You guys are gonna love the Joey decks. They're so awful. They're so awful, and we even have luck incorporated into the skills. You guys are gonna love it. Um, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the Mako duel. Um, the Moon card is literally different from the anime to what's physically printed, and so we had to do a slight rule change for that. But it's such a small thing. You guys will be like, "Oh, that just makes sense," and we'll be like, "Yeah." There's gonna be things like that. Not too many else. I believe I've mapped out like the first 8 duels we're going to be doing of the series, and that was the only change I had to make so far with card text. Obviously, skills on the other hand may change some game mechanics as well. The panic duel. Oh man, if you love RPG games, you're gonna love the panic duels and the paradox duels. You are in for a treat with what we're cooking with those. Um, as for our last slide, you say, why are you doing this? This definitely seems cool. I'm sure a lot of you are hyped for it, unless I'm just crazy and I'm the only one that finds this concept interesting. Um, but why would we do it? It feels like it'd be, first of all, it feels like it would be difficult, right? Like you'd spend hours theory crafting decks just to play this silly little format. And well, that would require someone with immense knowledge of both the casual and competitive scenes of the game in order to come up with a game balance state where both decks have a chance to go at each other while also maintaining um, integrity based on the casual anime fans' experience. And honestly, the reason why we want to do this is because, as many of you know, our card game, I'm not gonna black pill and be like, oh, it's dying, but there are some major flaws going on. And again, believe it or not, a lot of it is related to the anime. Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains was the last regular series animes, and then they came out with the Rush Duels, but we didn't get Rush Duels over here in the West. So basically, we have this game that was reliant on putting character boss monsters on the front art to sell covers, and just the I should have completed my thoughts for this last preamble. I think I did pretty good without a script, but this last preamble, I really should have put my thought into why we are doing this. Um, how do I put this? The idea is that we want to capture the anime spirit again for the game, right? Because even Duel Links, if you've been playing Duel Links recently, they don't have any more worlds to add. They added both Rush Duels. They're adding skins, guys. Konami is adding skins to Duel Links. You can play as Princess Mokuba from the virtual game. Like that's how down bad Duel Links is for content. And that game is unlike Master Duel, which could survive forever without the anime. Duel Links will not. Duel Links is probably going to shut down within a couple of years based on my experience in mobile games. That's why I don't spend money on it anymore. And I even uninstalled it because I enjoy. Obviously, I like skills, right? I'm making this series revolve around them. Duel Links is a huge inspiration for this series. Um, but yeah, I do hope you guys will enjoy the content. Uh, as for what day a week will be uploaded, we're going to try to do once a week, maybe like Tuesday upload day. But the best way to know is to join my Discord, where I always ping. My link tree should be in my bio. Um, and obviously to subscribe and drop the notification button. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to go over before I sign out here. EX skills, character skills. I was a little bit worried that the character skills and the EX skills would be too much. So I do want to keep the skills a little shorter usually. That's why the EX, actually I should say more of the EX skills are very simple, right? I think they're pretty simple, right? Like you can normal summon without tributing twice per duel. You can get an additional tribute summon twice per duel. Like those seem pretty simple. Um What else? There was one more thing I think I forgot. Oh, filler duels. That is a big one. There are duels that we are going to skip that I have deemed as filler. Um, right at the start, there's one, right? Because you have the first episode of the iconic duel, and then there's like technically two duels in the next episode. It's like Weevil versus Rex, which is like just showing you Rex losing. That would be fun to recreate, but we're not going to focus on it. Maybe we'll come back to it later. And then there's also in that same episode Yugi versus Pegasus, where it's like this half-assed duel where Yugi is like the first chud in history to lose to time rules, and then go complain on YGO Twitter about how awful time rules are and how Konami needs to fix them. But anyway, so I did want to talk about that. Maybe we might have some special guests on to fill in for some of the episodes. Obviously, the main stars are going to be me and Damien, of course, me and my good friend Damien. But maybe there's going to be, especially for like the tag duels, I was thinking about maybe having guests. Another thing is, if someone did want to pick this series up for their own channel, but wanted to get started on like GX and stuff, I would also be open to that. Uh, One thing that would be really cool, I mean, definitely let me know so I don't end up doing it as well, but I think that would be really cool. Um, I just love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I want to consume content and make content until Konami decides to stop milking this game for what it's worth. So you all have a lovely day. This video went on basically about as long as I wanted to. Uh, and you guys have a happy new year. Most importantly, stick to your resolutions. My two resolutions were make content and work out. And I got home from the gym earlier today. So things have been going pretty good for me. So have a good day, everyone.